You're 3 miles from the nearest exit, the temperature outside just dropped to 28 degrees, your phone shows 1 bar, and the engine has started making a sound you've never heard before. You reach into the glove box for something, anything, and all you find is an expired insurance card and a half-empty pack of gum. That's the moment every driver remembers for the rest of their life. The moment you realize that the $2,000 of technology under your hood means absolutely nothing if you don't have $15 of the right gear in your trunk. And here's what nobody tells you. 99% of drivers on the road right now are rolling around with a kit that is either useless, expired, or missing the 4 items that actually matter when things go sideways. Most people think a jumper cable and a flashlight is a survival kit. Most people think roadside assistance will reach them in 20 minutes. Most people think their phone will always have signal. All 3 of those assumptions have killed drivers, and they keep killing drivers every single winter. And the frustrating part is that the same drivers who spend $80 on synthetic oil, $400 on premium tires will not spend $15 on the one kit that could pull them out of a ditch at 2 inches the morning. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly what belongs in that kit, broken into 2 completely different categories. Most people confuse into one useless pile. And at the end, I'll give you the single prevention habit that makes sure the kit is actually ready the day you need it, not the day after. Part 1. The mechanical survival kit, the gear that gets your car moving again. This matters first because 80% of roadside emergencies are not medical, they are mechanical. If you can get the vehicle running again, you eliminate every other problem in the same minute. Here's what most drivers instinctively do. They buy one of those prepackaged roadside kits from a big box store for $39.99, throw it in the trunk, and forget about it for 6 years. It feels responsible, it looks complete. The box has a picture of a confident guy in a flannel shirt on the front. But here is the truth. Those kits are built to a price point of about $4 in actual materials. The jumper cables inside are usually 6 gauge. Thinner and 6 gauge cables cannot deliver enough amperage to crank a cold V6 at 20 degrees Fahrenheit. You'll clamp them on, you'll hear a sad click, and you'll watch the voltage on the donor car drop while nothing happens on yours. The mechanical consequence is simple. A starter motor on a modern engine pulls between 150 and 250 amps at the moment of cranking, and a thin cable with aluminum strands wrapped in copper-colored coating will deliver maybe 80. You are trying to push a river through a drinking straw. The reframe is this: a cheap jump kit is not a tool, it's a decoration. Here's what actually works, simplest to most advanced. The simplest fix is a real set of jumper cables, 4 gauge or thicker, 20 feet long, pure copper, not copper-clad aluminum. You'll pay about $18 to $25 for a proper set, and they will last you 30 years. Next step up, and this is the single best upgrade you can make to your trunk, is a lithium jump pack. The good ones now sell for $40 to $60. They fit in your glove box. They will crank a dead battery 8 to 12 times on one charge, and they do not require a second vehicle. That alone has saved more drivers stranded in empty parking lots at midnight than any cell phone ever has. Add to that a small one, 2-volt tire inflator that plugs into your cigarette lighter, runs about $15 to $20, and reinflates a slow leak from 20 pounds per square inches back up to 35 inches about 4 minutes. A plug kit for a punctured tire costs $8. Will save you the $300 tow plus the new tire when the puncture is a simple roofing nail, and finally, a real flashlight, not the one on your phone. A proper LED with a fresh set of batteries stored separately so they don't corrode the contacts. The universal mini prevention tip for this whole half of the kit is this: every 6 months, on the day you change your clocks for daylight saving, you open the kit, you test the jump pack, you cycle the inflator for 30 seconds, and you replace any battery older than 2 years. That one 0-minute ritual is the difference between gear that works and gear that fails the one night you need it. Part 2, the human survival kit, and I want to be very clear, this is a completely different problem from the first half, technically and mentally. The first kit gets the car moving. The second kit keeps you alive when the car cannot move. Most drivers collapse these 2 categories into one, and that is the mistake that turns a bad night into a tragedy. The universal mistake here is assuming that because help is theoretically on the way, you only need to survive for 30 or 40 minutes. The catastrophic consequence shows up in every winter news cycle. A driver slides off a rural road at 9 at night, has no signal, no blanket, no water. Runs the engine for warmth until the tank goes dry around 4 inches the morning. By the time anyone finds the vehicle at 11 the next day, the cabin temperature has been below freezing for 7 hours. Hypothermia begins at a core body temperature of 95 degrees Fahrenheit and in a metal box at 20 degrees outside. With no insulation and no heat source, a healthy adult reaches that point in under 4 hours. The old mechanics knew this. The old truckers knew this. They carried a second kit separate from the toolbox, and they never touched it except in an emergency. Here's what belongs in it, and I'll walk you through method 1, method 2, and method 3, cheapest to most specialized. Method 1 is the wool blanket, not fleece, not a thin throw from the dollar store, a real wool blanket, military surplus if you can find one, about $25. Wool is the only common fiber that retains roughly 80% of its insulating value when wet. Because the fibers themselves are hollow and trap air even when soaked, cotton drops to near zero when wet. Synthetic fleece holds about 60% but melts near any heat source. You fold the wool blanket flat under the passenger seat and you forget about it until the day it saves your life. Method 2 is water and calories. 2 1-liter bottles of water, rotated every 6 months because the plastic does leach over time. 4 high-calorie bars, the kind hikers carry around 400 calories each with a 5-year shelf life. Your body burns roughly 100 calories per hour just maintaining core temperature in a cold cabin. Dehydration accelerates hypothermia by thickening the blood and reducing circulation to the extremities. Total cost for the water and the bars, about $12. Method 3 is the specialized layer most people skip entirely, a Mylar emergency bivvy. The foil-looking sleeping bag that folds down to the size of a deck of cards costs about $8 and reflects up to 90% of your radiated body heat back at you. Combine the wool blanket on the outside with the Mylar bivvy on the inside. You can hold a survivable core temperature for over 12 hours in a cabin at 15 degrees Fahrenheit with no engine running. Add to that a single candle and a metal coffee can. This is the trick. The old-timers passed down 1-lit tea candle inside a closed vehicle, raises the cabin temperature by roughly 4 to 7 degrees, provides enough light to see by. The metal can catches the wax and keeps the open flame away from upholstery. That single candle is the $25 secret you saw on the way in. A 6-pack of long burn emergency candles costs about that much, and each one burns for 8 to 10 hours. Round it out with a basic first aid pouch, a whistle that carries farther than your voice, and a folding knife, and the entire human survival side of your kit comes in under $50. Part 3, prevention. Here's the single universal action that prevents both halves of this kit from failing you when you need them, and it costs you nothing. Twice a year, the same weekend, you rotate your tires or change your oil, you pull the entire kit out of the trunk. You lay every item on the garage floor, and you physically test or inspect each one. The reason this works mechanically is simple batteries self-discharge at roughly 2 to 5% per month, even sitting idle. Rubber seals on inflators dry rot in heat cycles, water bottles develop slow leaks, and food bars lose their seal where the wrapper folds. The exact material you need for this is nothing more than a plastic storage tote with a snap lid. About $10, labeled on the outside with the date of your last inspection written in permanent marker. You apply it by setting a recurring reminder on your phone for the first Saturday of April. The first Saturday of October, you spend 15 minutes on it and you put everything back. That single habit will save you roughly $400 a year in avoided tows, avoided emergency tire replacements, avoided locksmith calls, avoided motel rooms when a breakdown forces an overnight stop, and one time in your life, it will save something a lot more valuable than that. Now, here's the new problem you're going to run into. The moment you build this kit correctly, you're going to start the engine on a cold morning. You're going to hear the starter crank just a little slower than it did last week. You're going to realize that your battery itself, the one bolted under your hood, is quietly dying months before it actually leaves you stranded. Most drivers never catch that warning window. They wait until the click, and by then they're using the kit you just built instead of preventing the breakdown in the first place. If your starter has started sounding even slightly lazy on cold mornings, drop a comment below that just says slow crank, and I'll know to prioritize you. The next video is going to show you exactly how to test a battery's real health in your driveway with a tool that costs under $20. How to read the 3 numbers that actually predict failure, the cheap maintenance trick that adds 2 to 3 years of life to any lead-acid battery on the road today. Subscribe so it lands in your feed the day it goes up, because the drivers who watch both videos are the ones who stop getting stranded entirely. And the drivers who only watch this one are the ones who will at least survive the night when it happens. Either way, you're ahead of the 99% driving around right now with an expired insurance card and a half-empty pack of gum. Build the kit this weekend, test it twice a year, and the next time the temperature drops and the engine makes a sound you've never heard, you'll reach into the glove box and find exactly what you need. And here is the part most people skip. The part that actually separates a kit that sits in your trunk, gathering dust from a kit that saves a life on a Tuesday night in February. You have to know how to use it before you need it. In 1982, a study published by the National Safety Council looked at roadside fatalities over a 5-year window, found that nearly 40% of drivers who died after a breakdown had functional safety equipment in their vehicle at the time of the incident. They had the flares, they had the triangles, they had the vests. What they did not have was the muscle memory to deploy any of it under stress, in the dark, with semi-trucks doing 72 miles an hour 10 feet from their shoulder. So this weekend, after you assemble the kit, I want you to do something that feels ridiculous. Pull into an empty parking lot on a Saturday morning, kill the engine, and pretend you've broken down. Pop the trunk, find the vest in the dark by feel, put it on without looking, walk 50 paces behind the vehicle and set the triangles or the flares at roughly that distance. That is the stopping distance a car traveling 60 miles an hour needs on dry pavement, and it shrinks dramatically on ice. Practice opening the jumper cable clamps. Practice attaching them in the correct order, which is positive to the dead battery first, then positive to the donor, then negative to the donor, and finally the negative clamp to a bare metal ground on the dead vehicle's engine block. Never directly to the dead battery's negative terminal, because hydrogen gas can vent from a discharged battery. A single spark at the wrong moment has blown the casing apart and sent acid into drivers' faces. That warning is not theoretical. Emergency rooms across the country see roughly 2,000 jumpstart injuries every year, and the vast majority happen. Someone connected the final clamp directly to the battery instead of to the chassis, ground 6 inches away. Practice using the seatbelt cutter on an old strap from a thrift store backpack. Practice striking the window punch against a piece of scrap glass if you can find one safely. The resistance is different from what you expect, and the first time you use it should never be the time it actually matters. The drivers who rehearse these motions once, even just once, deploy them in a real emergency roughly 4 times faster than drivers who have only read about them. 4 times faster on a freeway shoulder is the difference between standing safely behind a guardrail, standing in the path of a distracted driver, looking down at a text message. That is the stakes. That is why the kit alone is not enough. The kit plus 15 minutes of practice on a quiet Saturday is what actually moves you out of the 99th percentile of unprepared drivers into the small group who walk away from the worst night of their year with nothing worse than a story to tell.